It's the Out of Nazareth podcast. Yalla, Habibis. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. Ahlan wa sahlan to another episode of the Out of Nazareth podcast. I'm Zach, and it's good to see you all again. Well, September's been pretty intense. Lots of ups and downs. I'll share a little bit about what's been going on with me personally, as well as the land. But first, gotta give a little throw out. This is the longest my facial hair has ever been. So I was blessed and cursed with low facial hair, or baby face, as some call it. And I never really got facial hair growing up. So finally, this is like a couple weeks in, but finally a little bit has been growing in. And still no connection here. But it's funny. I was growing it out a little bit, and I was like about ready to shave it for when I usually do. And I had one friend be like, "Hey, it looks kind of good." And I know Simon Sinek has like a TED Talk about this or something, but it truly just takes like that one friend to give a word of encouragement that'll keep you going. One friend, and it's like psychologically proven now in his talk. Simon Sinek, he talks about it. But if you have a friend and they say, and you trust their opinion, like they matter in your life, it's not just someone random. But if they support you or offer a word of encouragement or are there for you to keep pushing you as you're trying something, it really does give you enough of a boost. So I had one friend, and, we experience things at different times in our lives. I've never had much facial hair. So I've never had this experience of like just kind of sitting and like messing around and playing with it, or some of the hairs like coming over my lip and I can feel them. It's like when you get braces for the first time and you're like, I'm feeling it all. So anyways, this is a new experience for me. It's kind of getting annoying, so I'll probably shave it pretty quick, but I just wanted to laugh at that. Now it's recorded. Now it's official. I have a little bit of facial hair. But yeah, ever since I came here, especially in this culture, because everybody has these big beards by like a young age. A couple of my friends did in America as we were growing up. But I remember coming and being like 23, 24 and barely having anything. Not that this is much, but people were like, "Oh, you're the new student." And I was like, "No, I'm 23. I graduated from college." And they're like, "What's wrong with your face? Why don't you have any facial hair?" But funnily enough, with my genetics, I don't have a lot of facial hair here. But it's also nice because that means I don't have a lot of, body hair. And that is something that, unfortunately, the local population has to deal with. I remember I was training with this semi-pro team from Nazareth, soccer, football. And we were getting changed one time for training. And, I take my shirt off and one of the guys looks and he's like, "Hey, Zach, like, did you do laser on your body? Because you have no hair." And I look at him and I was like, "Nah, man. All natural." And then they were like, "What? Why don't you have any hair? You're like a baby." So unfortunately, especially for the Arab men here, this comes in strong at a young age. Unfortunately, this leaves as they grow older and older. I have a couple friends who've had to go to Turkey, or as they say, zara, yani plant hair follicles. And then the Arab guy kind of has a t-shirt for, even when he's not wearing a t-shirt. Poor guys. So yeah, anyways, that was just a little funny thing for my last little bit. September, man. So I had a big thing at the beginning of September on the 2nd, a visa appointment. Now, over the summer, I was informed every year I have to renew my visa, the A3 clergy visa I'm on, and that I do my work with the church. And every year there's never really been an issue. I go to the appointment, pay the money. But this year they've made the rules a little bit more strict in order to stay on my visa. And so at the beginning of July, when I reached out to my lawyer, my friend, Isam, hey man, let's begin this process again. He said, hey Zach, there's a good chance that they might not renew your visa because renewal is becoming a little bit more difficult. I was like, my heart stopped. Actually, you know what? My heart stopped in the sense of like, wow, that's big news and it could change my life. But very quickly, I didn't let myself get very emotional. Very quickly, I was like, okay, what's the next thing we can do? What step can I take that's under my control so I can stay here? And it was interesting. I talked to him on the phone on the 1st of July. I didn't mention it to anybody because we reconnected on the 3rd of July and he confirmed, hey, it's going to be tough. Now then I called my parents. I did a FaceTime with them and I informed them everything that was going on. A couple cool things about this phone call. First, over the last decade as I've lived here, there's always been a word from my mother. Hey, aren't you, ever thinking about coming back? Don't you miss this place, your family and home? When I shared that I might have to come back, I assumed that she'd be like really excited. And the first words out of her mouth were, what can we do to get you to stay? And I was like, wait, what? So that was pretty wild, an interesting, unexpected response. But then I also was talking to her and she said I could all day 2 days ago on the 1st when I hadn't talked to her, but I had gotten the news. She said, I was thinking about you. I felt like something was off. And I was just like, how did you know? She goes, Zach, like you were in me. You were in my body. We share DNA. Like I'm connected to you. So moms for the win, just always knowing when something's up and just that connection with their child. So that amazed me. And then as we were praying and kind of just finishing out our conversation about, next steps to take, my mom said, the word just came to me, there are giants in the land. It's like, what? So real quick, the story of Joshua in the Old Testament after the Israelites get out of Egypt and then 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. Actually, what leads to 40 years of wandering in the wilderness is 12 spies get sent into the promised land when the Canaanites are living there. 10 of them come back and they're really scared of the big people and the potential danger. 2, Joshua and Caleb, came back and said, yeah, the people might be big, but like, don't you remember how big our God is? The things he's done for us. So that was the word my mom had for me, and it really carried me through the summer. There may be giants in the land that are blocking the way, but don't you remember how big our God is? And it really did carry me. It gave me peace because what I was going through was this uncertainty completely out of my hands about something I held very dear. And if I continue into August, and again, talking about the situation of the land, every summer we do 3 weeks of camps for kids from Nazareth, specifically from the Nazareth Baptist School where I serve. This year, because of the situation, we were not able to host camp, just with rockets and potential danger and just everything. Camp. And it's a really big bummer because this is a big light to the community, as well as it gets people who love the Lord into a serving space to be together, gets you out of your normal routine, all these things that promote spiritual growth. And so we lost it. And continuing that, we tried to have even just a leader day for or a weekend for a couple days for the leaders to get away and spend some time in spiritual community and worship and fellowship. And then right before that, there was another big news item that came. And so that got canceled. And so the spiritual director of these camps every summer, I call her Mama Manal. She's been, very, very good to me over the years here. I went up to her because she had offered or asked me to prepare something to share with the leaders. And I wanted to talk about Joshua because I was being impacted by him and his story. And when our leader time got canceled, I reached out to her and I said, I at least want to hear what you were going to share with us because I want to be encouraged. And I know you worked really hard on preparing a PowerPoint and the words to speak and encourage us. So, Yella, I want to hear what you have to share. And the focus for that time was going to be around the patriarchs. And man, the word she had, it just continued that encouragement for me of there are giants in the land, but also the story of Abraham and his son Isaac, and how God asked Abraham to offer him the thing he held most precious to him. And so for Abraham, that was Isaac. And Abraham, I think, just could fully trust God because he didn't even believe the son could come, the promised son. But then the son did come when they were of old age. And then there's 3 days of walking, and Abraham knows what he's going to have to do. And just the thought process of going through, I'm going to have to sacrifice my son. And then Isaac, who in stories is depicted as this little kid, but he was a 25-year-old man. And so he's giving the most precious thing up to him, his life, in obedience to the Lord. And I was so moved when Manal said that. And no, the most precious thing I was holding on to was the most precious thing I hold is living here. I've built my life here. I love the relationships I've made. And yeah, to potentially have that taken away from me was a big fear. But I just kept having to even tell myself, even when I didn't feel it, I kept having to tell myself, offer it up to the Lord, this most precious thing, because he is good. And even if he takes it, that's what I really had to come to peace with, was saying these things over and over to myself. Even if I don't get to stay here, I'm okay with it. So he was working on my heart all summer. And I know I grew in a depth of intimacy and faith and trust in the Lord through that experience. And now, like right when my visa got renewed, my life got really busy again because I was able to stay and serve in all these different ways with the church and the school, coaching a little bit and helping on that side. Now every day, even if I'm super tired, like I have this gratitude because I knew what it was going to be like to almost lose the thing I held most dear. And even on the morning of my visa appointment, when nerves are high, I had to go through this whole appointment. I had to show up, and then my papers got sent to Jerusalem when usually they just decide, when usually they just decide in Nazareth. And then I had a 2-week delay. And so just there's consistent uncertainty and consistent potential for feelings to be like, oh no, what's going to happen? And for sure, those did come. And I had to totally change, distract myself or go to sleep or whatever. But even the morning of, when I knew my insides were going to be all butterfly-y, when I knew I was going to be nervous, I was talking with a teacher at the school and sharing about, I don't know what's ahead, but I have all these potential things that could happen. And I'm hoping that the visa gets renewed so I can keep serving. And the teacher, Habibi Ustaz Aziz, teacher Aziz, he said, and you know what, Zach, you didn't plan any of these amazing things. And it just whoosh, hit me like a slap in the face, a good slap. And I looked at him and I go, I don't know if that was divine, man, but you just gave me so much peace to my heart, because truly I didn't plan any of this amazing stuff, and I've experienced it, and all I can do is give thanks for it, and even the tough stuff. And I don't know what's ahead, and I'm not planning any of it. And so God is good, man, and I know he has good things for me. And even, man, this was just like a heavy summer. And even going through the hard stuff, I knew, and I was telling myself, hey man, once this is all past, you're going to be stronger for it. Your faith is going to be, increased for it. You're going to trust the Lord even more. And also there will be stuff you don't know, but I know you'll be better through once the hard season, the hard the hard section is over. So, summer was really, really intense. And I could literally, when they renewed the visa, I could feel this physical weight let go off my shoulders. So that's how summer was, as I, dealt with my day to day. And that also was something I had to do. Was I have this large overhanging stressor, and we all have that. Maybe it's a test, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a project, maybe it's something with work. But then you have to carry out your day to day as best you can. It's this expectantly waiting balance that we live in, because as well, with our faith, we know Jesus won the battle, and there's lots of evil in the world going on. We know what the end result is, but we have to wait and exist in this in between. So in this land, there's a really bad time right now. And you can look around the world almost anywhere and say, there are problems. That's how it is. It's part of life. It's part of suffering. But you got to go about your day to day. For me, I believe to still be light and salt in the world, to be goodness. And I know there's so much more goodness around the world than we see in our news feeds. You remember John Krasinski when he did the Good News Network during COVID? And those stories lift us, but all we really get in major media outlets are negative things. So this land is going through something bad. I pray for the leaders. I pray that they make decisions about a reality they don't live in. And everybody who experiences and lives in the reality of the world showed up in protest and asking for ceasefire and asking for stopping. And the most unfortunate thing is are leaders of the world that now don't listen to the people. It's become reverse. Rather than them working for us, we work for them, and just make a decision, even though the majority wants them to do the opposite. So that's a big bummer. I'm just lowly Zach in, my apartment, talking about my life and faith and trying to encourage others based on the tools and gifts that God has given me and the relationships. So I continue to pray for them. And then I try to be light and salt in my local community, and to the people in my life. But it's really weird, man. I remember at the beginning of this a year ago, right? Just take that in for a second. A year ago, we've I'll include myself. We've let this go on for too long. We as a collective human society. I hate this suffering. I hate it. But we've let it go on for a year. And I remember a year ago being really scared and really nervous about any rocket, any siren. Now, the problem is, بالعربي بنقول, we say, بتصير متعود. You become used to it. This morning, I woke up to a siren and rockets. And then I looked out my kitchen window, and the Iron Dome takes them out, but they're closer than they've ever been. And then a couple days ago, we were leaving an English teaching session, and we look up, and right in that moment, siren and rockets, and you could look up. Here's the video.
فوقنا بالضبط وكان عليهم كان فوق راسنا هسه.
And so the joke here is, Like Arabs will go out and videotape it, and it's stupid, but you become used to it. I'm so thankful I live in a place that has great security and money that can protect us with the Iron Dome missiles. But it sucks that has to exist. And it sucks that you become accustomed to it. It sucks that seeing dead bodies of innocent people regularly is what's on our Instagram feeds. So I don't have the solution for it. I don't have an answer for it. All I can do is try to help those who have been afflicted, donating money, having conversations, hoping and praying that someone who knows the Lord gets into office. Oh my gosh. What a revolutionary thing that would be. Oh. And like we can all have thoughts. We can all have opinions. But also, as someone who's been here and lived it, I think there are opinions or experiences or knowledge that weigh heavier than others. And so I share about and talk about this place because it's in my immediate focus. It's my life. I don't talk about American politics, even though everybody wants to talk to me about American politics because I'm an American living here, but I don't live there. The decisions that American politicians make doesn't have as much of a direct impact on my life. Funnily enough, that's interesting to say because American politics has affected everywhere. So they affect everybody's life. Yeah, so it's been a weird week. I got sick a bit, so thankfully the country's on pause right now because of the back and forth attacks getting more intense and kind of this waiting tension for what's next. We talked about all year how hopefully it never opened up in Lebanon, and then it did. So the saddest thing is becoming used to it, for sure. The desensitization of your mind and your heart, because you've just seen it so much, or you've heard it heard it so many times. And I think about that. There's the negative, and then there's the positive. Well, like maybe not positive. Trying to battle becoming used to seeing amazing things. Like for me recently, it's been taking quiet moments of silence, because silence doesn't exist very much in my life anymore, out of my own making as well, and scrolling on my phone and distracting my brain, which, by the way, distracting the brain is one of the biggest ways that C.S. Lewis 60 years ago said that the devil would try to keep us away from the Lord, is distracting the brain and keeping our environment so loud that we can't hear the voice of God. So there's my own personal preach to myself, as well as you guys, for quiet moments. Physical things like the feel of the wind, the sunset or sunrise. Something that's happened to me unintentionally is in seeing people dying daily in Gaza and around this area. I've thought, what is my life? It's not that important. Granted, I have no dependent people upon me, no wife, no children. So it's much more easier to say that. It's much easier to say that as a single person alone. But, I'm no more important than these kids, these men or women that have passed away in a moment from an explosion. And just, you're kind of the main character in your own story. And so everybody else can die, but like you have plot armor on. And yet in experiencing and watching these videos and seeing people die day by day and just not feeling like I'm so important anymore. Yeah, I could die. I mean, we're all headed there. It just depends on, when. And something funny I saw recently was, what's more important is the stories they tell about you after you're gone. So Are they going to be good stories? So yeah, just I think a loss of holding on to my own life even. And I know that's dramatic and trying to big things to say, but truly like it's something that has happened within me. And then you think about, it's not the person that dies that suffers. It's all those who know them and love them that suffer. And the greatest, it's interesting we've gone this way. The greatest quote I've seen about grief is, grief is not having a place to put your love. It's like, oh man, that's so true. So thanks for coming around. It's just me sharing a little bit about my summer and the situation currently. I'm still safe. I'm still trying to be wise as possible. Thankful for the defense system, but what the safest thing is just for people to stop fighting, right? So easy to say that. God bless you all. I hope you have a great fall as we begin. I'm really sad about it getting cold and rainy because I love the warmth. But if it's the sun and sunny all the time, then you just have a desert. So you need the rain to grow. God bless, guys. See ya.